the Radio Forest Podcast.
Forrest, this is Tom Petersson, Cheap Trick.
How are you today?
I'm not bad. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I got to thank you right away because 2018, you guys were here in Boise, Idaho at the Albertsons Boise Open Golf Tournament. We hung out backstage briefly, but my son at the time was under one and we couldn't get a sitter, so I brought him. And you guys took pictures and held him. And so on his wall, so now he's like 3, on his wall in his room is a picture of him under one chatting with Cheap Trick. And often he'll go, "Hey, Dad, who's that?" And I'll go, "Oh, that's Cheap Trick."
He won't actually remember it, but he'll remember seeing that photo. So it's sort of like he remembers it.
Pretty crazy that he's under one and already met a band as big as Cheap Trick. I don't think I met anybody famous. I mean, I'm from a small town, so at least in my 20s.
So, yeah, that's true. Yeah, on what occasion would I have to meet? Dwight D. Eisenhower or something.
Who was the first, rock band that you might have met? Do you remember?
You mean, no, I didn't meet anybody.
What was the first one then as a band that you remember, holy crap, we now get to meet?
Oh, well, I suppose it would, the first time we actually did a proper tour, it wasn't one of the biggest tours, but it was the Kinks. That was one of our earliest influences. That's probably it for somebody that we really grew up with. But beyond that, we've worked with Queen and all sorts of stuff at first, but yeah, we really had no occasion to meet with people. Well, we did meet with Jeff Beck, the Jeff Beck group at that time in late 60s, and because Rick had sold a guitar to Jeff. So maybe Jeff Beck. But the King, it's probably Jeff Beck because we met him before we were known at all.
What about your kids? You remember taking your kids anywhere? I mean, being a parent, sometimes you just have to. Is there any time that your kids are kind of hanging out backstage with somebody and it's kind of surreal?
It's not surreal. We're kind of used to it, so and they think it's normal. So they would have met all sorts of people: Alice Cooper, Aerosmith. Just it goes on and on with that. So we've got pictures of them as little kids. Lemmy with my daughter, when she's a little. He said, "Would you mind getting in a photo with Lila and myself?" He goes, "No, it's okay." He goes, "You hold the baby." Okay, I don't think she's going to let you hold her, for starters, even if you wanted to. My daughter's walking past, the one who Lemmy was standing with. But she goes, "Oh." I wouldn't remember that either because she was 2 years old.
I remember being scared.
She remembers being scared. She had this really scared look on her face.
Can she tell us real quick how that was?
Well, Lila, come over here. You're on the radio now. So what he was asking, what was it like and who you met when you were a little kid?
When I met Lemmy, obviously I don't remember much. I just remember being scared shitless. And
watch your language.
You're fine. No, you're fine.
I thought he was a pirate. I don't know. I was super, because he was just, I don't know. But it stuck with me for sure. Now when I look back on it, I think it's super cool. But back then I was like, "Dad, get me away from this dude."
Was not a little kid. When she was about 4 weeks old, she's sitting there with the guys of the Aerosmith and sitting, Tyler is holding her. I mean, she was a tiny, obviously, if you're 4 weeks old, pretty darn small. We were playing with them somewhere near where we lived, and they were hilarious seeing that. There's Tyler holding a tiny little baby. It's just that kind of thing. So, but it's normal. That's what we do for a living. It's normal to her that she should be standing in front of a coffin with Alice Cooper and getting it, that sort of thing, crazy.
Dude, all of my family, my family history school projects when I was in elementary school, everybody would react so weird because I had, teachers were like, "Bring in baby pictures." And there's me with
Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper in a coffin and a python.
There's me with Satan. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's good. Yeah, we don't, does anyone really know Satan? But, that's like, what are you doing? That's a baby. Well, we didn't leave her with the people.
If you had a picture of Lemmy holding your child and victim services saw that, they'd be at your door immediately.
Well, he didn't want to.
No,
so,
I know.
You hold the baby. But it's funny, though, the pictures I've got with her and him, I'm in there too. I am holding the baby. We met his biographer, or the guy that did the big documentary on him. So he was with Lemmy and following him around everywhere. And he goes, "Wow." He goes, "Lemmy." I showed him the picture, and he's like, "Oh my God." He goes, that's one of the few photos I've ever seen of Lemmy where he's actually smiling. Yeah, I never thought about it that way. You would know. He goes, "Oh yeah, could you send me that? That's so cool." Lemmy smiling in a couple of them, wow. Wasn't somebody that walked up to him and goes, "Hey, By the way, this is your baby. Like, what?
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
Who's that? Your baby.
Whose baby is this? That's yours. Ah, boy.
Oh boy.
You had mentioned Queen real quick when you guys opened up for them. I know it was pretty early on. Correct me if I'm wrong in the band's career.
Yes.
Were they like gods at that time? Were they? I mean, they were pretty big. This is like late 70s, maybe early 70s.
Oh no, it wasn't early 70s. It was probably. I don't remember if we had a record out. What had happened was they had heard an advanced copy of our record and really liked it. What happened was Thin Lizzy was going to open for them in the U.S. They had some visa problems, so they couldn't do the first couple of shows. So we got them. They were in the Midwest, so we were in Milwaukee and Madison. I don't remember where we were exactly. I should remember, but so we got to work with Queen, and it was such a nice compliment because they go, "Oh, we love that record. That first record of yours, actually our only record." Like, wow, you heard that? It's like, yeah. So that was really the first big act like that we had ever worked with. That definitely did not hurt in Japan because they were so huge, really worldwide by that. I think they were on their third album or something by that time. And they were huge in Japan, pretty much like everywhere else, but the Japanese press was following them everywhere. So everywhere they went, there was the Japanese press, and there we were, and that's really how that started. We started getting fan mail out of the blue from Japan because they'd write about us and they thought we looked funny or something. So they and they liked the music, so it worked out.
How have you been feeling? I know you had the open heart surgery. You guys had posted that message about you sitting down on TV, kind of taking it easy under doctor's orders.
I feel better. Yeah, well, I didn't have to go anywhere, which was good. It was only a few weeks after I had the operation, so I hadn't been in the car or anything like that. Looking back on it, now it seems kind of crazy. The band flew in here in Nashville, is where I live. We went to SIR, and they had a film crew, and my crew guy picked me up, drove over there, was there for a couple hours, went through this, it was something good for me to look forward to do, but it was hard. Kind of everything I did made me so exhausted. I did 2 hours worth of that, filmed the stuff. We did a rehearsal for a couple hours the day before and came in and did the show the next day. We did a couple of songs for Howard Stern, too, which haven't been released yet. So we played about 5 songs. And, after it was like, okay,
yeah.
I think that's about all I could do. They set up this stand for me where the guitar was held in a stand. So I just sat really on a stool, but I couldn't move because I can't lift anything. It's all well and good at first, and then after a while, like, geez, I'm in the same position here for like 2 hours straight.
Yeah, that would be tough.
My leg is falling asleep, But anyway, it worked.
We're talking to Tom Petersson from Cheap Trick. In Another World, your 20th album out now. It was the #1 rock album when it came out, into which Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue said, always #1, Cheap Trick. So congratulations, wow. Tom. Does it matter hitting #1? Because I'd imagine at this point, a little bit of you does it for Cheap Trick. You know what the fans like. But at this stage in the game, your 20th album, you got to do an album that you like.
That's all we ever do. We like it, which is what we try to achieve. We do it for our own enjoyment, I guess, basically. This is stuff that we want to hear ourselves. Like, oh, that would be cool. Or that sounds great. Wow, what a great riff. Or what a great idea. We don't know what people want to hear. All we really know is what we would like to hear. And we hope to surprise ourselves. And we do, because, we're all putting a lot of effort into it. And any ideas you come up with and you throw out there to the rest of the band, it's always improved. It's like, wow, that's better than I thought it was. Well, that's a better idea than, that's a better direction. Oh, that's really cool. So we don't know what people want to hear. We just do what we want to hear and hope for the best.
Now, I know the last song on the new album, In Another World, is a John Lennon cover. You got Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols kind of helping you out, too. And I know Rick and...
How about that?
Yeah,
cool,
it's super cool. And I know Rick and Bunny Carlos both worked with John Lennon, and I'm pretty sure you guys might have all been at one of Julian's birthday parties back in the day. I guess my question is, did you and John Lennon ever cross paths or work together? I mean, with the closeness of the band, your love of the Beatles, did that ever happen?
With me personally, no. Bunny and Rick did that session with him in New York. But then he was, murdered right after that. So that was out of the question, not in the cards to work with him. But no, we didn't work with the Beatles or anything. I haven't worked with anybody else like that. But, how much bigger can you get? John Lennon, for God's sake. Not bad.
Tom is pretty much credited with sort of inventing and bringing to the forefront the 12-string bass. Tom, how did that happen? I know you're a big collector and you got a lot of guitars and basses and you can play guitar. So were you trying to sort of get a new sound, a thicker sound? Did you want to do more stuff that a guitar can do? How did the 12-string come up?
Yes, that was my answer.
Yes.
What you said. Well, I started out playing guitar as a rhythm guitar player and played in bands since I was 14, 15 years old. A few years after I started playing, I switched over to bass. And it was kind of the time period, by then it was later 60, 67, somewhere around there, that in all these three-piece groups, Jimi Hendrix Experience and all the stuff started coming through. So it was like, yeah, I think I'll switch over to bass. I'll probably have more luck doing that. And then I just had the idea that I wanted the bass to sound basically like a 12-string guitar playing along with whatever I was with a bass. But because I started out as a rhythm player and didn't start out learning bass parts really or anything, I guess why should I? Sort of like a really big rhythm guitar. So I've got a different style probably than a lot of, classic kind of bass players. I didn't start out learning following the rules about, okay, the bass has to do this and you've got to follow that. It was never like that. It's just like, just do whatever sounds good and so what? That's about it. We just really do it for fun, like, oh, that's a good idea. What is that? Who knows? Like that worked.
Maybe you can school me on this. I don't know 100% the story. I know you guys sort of took over the theme song for that 70s show, but even I think in the first two seasons, it still has that hook, which sounds very Cheap Trick-ish. So was it written and then you did it? Did you ever say like, hey, we're all right? That's pretty damn close to Cheap Trick anyway. Was it written specifically for you? How did that?
That song was written by Alex Chilton. Big Star did that song originally. It's called Out in the Street. I think that's the proper title. And the 70s show, the first season, the musical director did a version of it for the show. So it's kind of like a Van Halen knockoff version of it, I guess. Sounds like that. Nobody really liked it, I guess. They go, yeah, I think let's let Cheap Trick see what they can do to this thing. So really the only season that we're not on there is the very first one. So if it sounds like Van Halen and not Cheap Trick, that's because it's not us. But we did that. That's Alex Chilton wrote that song. And then that We're All Right, we threw that part in from our own thing. So
okay.
That's not in the original. If you hear the original song by Big Star, it's completely different.
If you could put a number on it, how many guitars and basses do you think you have? And also, real quick, how many do you think Rick has?
Oh, I don't know about what he has. What I have, it's not a collection really. It's not like, I've seen Geddy Lee's book and stuff, and he's got every Fender bass from every year and every color, that sort of thing. It's nothing like that. What I have is really instruments that I want to use to record. Things that I like, but it's not really a proper collection like, oh, I've got every Strat and I've got all this. It's not even close to that. It's really stuff that I use to work. You get different ideas from playing different guitars, and you'll sit down with a Strat and play something, it's going to be completely different than if you sit down with a jazz box or something. It's like you'll just have a different idea about songs. So it's not a collection in that way, but it's, and that's what we do for a living, so it's easy to rationalize, kind of like, yeah, I need that, so I guess I can get that. But
yeah, it's tools for your job.
That's exactly right. So it's not like a million instruments and just sitting around, in a collection. It's not, for me anyway, it's not like that.
Tell your daughter thank you for hopping on with us. I really appreciate it. That's such a cool story. 20th album out now, In Another World. Tom Petersson, bass guitar, Cheap Trick.
It's no problem. Hey, when did Boise, the downtown, get so damn cool? Man, it's jumping down there. That Whole Foods, they had all sorts of stuff, right?
Oh, it's gotten even bigger since just the last couple of years ago. It's I think the last 2 years, Idaho has been the most moved to state as far as population growth. So not sheer numbers, but percentage-wise, we've grown the most. And you guys have been coming here, I'm going to guess, since the 80s, because I know you've been up to Bogus Basin skiing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were there way before the 80s. We were there with probably Kiss, or I don't know, but we've been in Boise, but it never was. It's that little, I don't know about the outskirts and all the, whatever, the suburbs and all that, because that's not where we are. We go to a place, we're in a hotel, and we don't have any car or anything. So wherever we can walk to is where we go. But that little downtown, I think they even had a coffee shop from Rockford, Illinois, down to the little main drag. And there was all sorts of good stuff, all in one spot, like 5-6 blocks straight of really cool restaurants and good stuff.
It's grown even more since you guys were here in 2018. I would guess there's no less than 4 new hotels just in downtown since you were here in 2018. Like, you won't recognize it very much when you come back.
There. Okay, so it was a few years ago. Yeah, I remember. Really was surprised. We hadn't been there in a while, and a lot of times you just roll through and you play, and then you go somewhere else. You don't even stay there. But it's like, wow, I think we had a day off, and it's like, they got all sorts of good stuff down here. This is great.
Yeah, we got a lot of culture coming. You'll love it the next time you're here.
Cool. Forrest, I'll see you somewhere in Idaho.